I think for a lot of us, minimalism is a great idea in theory, but putting it into practice can be tough, especially if you're really trying to do an overhaul of your life and genuinely live with a lot less and to shop less and to just be more intentional with your environment and your home. It is hard to make that change overnight, and I've been working on it for a while. I'm still on this journey, but I have found that there are several things that I've done that are kind of behavioral hacks that I've used, basically tiny habits that I've sprinkled into my life that aren't that hard, that have made a huge difference in my pursuit of minimalism, that have allowed me to feel more free to let go of things, to actually make the changes of decluttering, and to accumulate less. Some of these are kind of new or different, so I'd encourage you to stick around to the end if you're interested in this kind of thing. So here are 10 transformative minimalist habits. The first one is to practice new habit building. And I say this as a distinct habit because I think the practice of developing new habits and making long-term behavioral change is a skill unto itself. And once you get good about being a little bit more mindful and really making those little behavioral changes in a regular way, it does become easier and easier over time, and it can have rippling effects on your life. And this is really a strategy that could help you way beyond minimalism. It could help you in many aspects of your life for habit change. But thinking of habit change as its own skill and something that you're working on and that you're thinking about and that you're strategizing around can help you actually make those behavioral changes. Taking the time to intentionally think about, how am I going to integrate this habit? What do I see going wrong? And how can I prevent that from happening? Or if something starts to go wrong, to notice it and to catch it and to not just give up right away on the habit. And I think part of why it's so hard to keep our homes tidy sometimes is that quite often we live life on autopilot, especially for those everyday mundane tasks. When we move around our space or our homes, we're not thinking, we're not bringing our attention to what's happening, and therefore we just kind of go by what we're used to doing. We don't make the changes in the moment because our mind is elsewhere. We're worried about what we need to get done that day. We're thinking about the party next week. We're considering what we're going to eat for dinner, but we're not being mindful in the moments when we're moving around our spaces and interacting with our belongings. So I think part of making the habit changes is bringing more awareness and mindfulness to in the moment interaction with your space and your home. And again, this is sort of a mindfulness practice, something that you need to regularly try to do and to bring your attention to as you're doing it, which isn't easy, but once you start to do it more, it becomes easier. A second habit is to declutter as you organically interact with your surroundings. Don't feel the need to wait for a formalized declutter to eliminate something from your space. This is something that was so hard for me to adjust to. For some reason, sometimes when I'd find something in my space that I wasn't sure whether I should keep, I would just leave it there and leave it for the future Aylin to come around and to deal with it when I was doing a formal declutter. But that's just making it harder on your future self. And so somehow I just needed the permission. I needed to tell myself, Aylin, you can always be decluttering, not even when you're formally decluttering. And somehow once I got that into my mindset and I would regularly remind myself of that throughout the day, I noticed I was just getting rid of more, and then the actual declutters themselves were a bit easier. If you're going through your closet deciding what to wear and you noticed an old t-shirt that you absolutely hate that's really badly stained, don't wait, eliminate it. So I have a bunch more hacks for you, so don't go away, but I want to very briefly talk about the sponsor of this video, Ritual. Basically, Ritual is a supplement brand that I feel I can trust, which honestly, in this day and age, is hard to find. I've been using their essential prenatal vitamin, and it's the only one that I trust in my pregnancy. Basically, when the founder of Ritual, Kat, had her first child, she was looking for a prenatal she could trust, but she kept noticing all these additional questionable ingredients. She couldn't find a brand she trusted, so she built her own. Ritual makes all their ingredients traceable. It's backed by the first visible supply chain of its kind, so you know where labeled ingredients come from and why they're there. These vitamins are also third-party tested, so they go above and beyond the industry standard, seeking the most rigorous certifications and testing every batch of products for heavy metals, microbes, allergens, all that. They're also vegan-friendly, non-GMO, gluten-free, and allergen-free. They have this delayed release capsule design, designed to basically dissolve later in the small intestine, which is an ideal place to absorb nutrients. And they have a happiness guarantee, so if you're not happy after 30 days, you can get your money back. So I highly recommend, if you're looking for a prenatal supplement or really other kinds of basic multivitamins, check Ritual out. They really are a brand you can trust that I rely on. And what's great is right now you can get 20% off your first month when you scan my QR code on the screen or with my code AlinLesser20. Head over to ritual.com/AlinLesser20 to save today. I'll also put that link at the top of my description box. Anyway, let's get back to the hacks for this video. My third habit is to regularly scan your home with a garbage bag. Maybe I unwrapped something and I didn't deal with the wrapping, or I just left something out, which is also a habit to change. But I think sometimes just grabbing a garbage bag and running around your home just looking for things that you know go in the garbage can make a huge difference in how tidy feeling your space is. It's also something that's easy to do when you just have like 5 to 10 minutes, get rid of a little bit of garbage, and make your life easier on yourself in the future. A fourth minimalist habit is to say no to freebies and giveaways. My old way of going through life was to always accept anything that was free, just on principle. I think especially in college and in grad school when I really had limited funds, and anytime something was free, it felt like a gift, a true gift. But the problem is quite often those weren't things that I actively wanted or needed, and they would just clutter up my space. And what's weird about sometimes when you get free things, especially if they're associated with some kind of memory or event, is that then they become sentimental and even harder to eliminate from your space. Like I remember I got this one cup from a psychology conference I went to in grad school once that when you pour water in it would like change color, and it had a branding of the conference, and somehow it became even sentimental for me, so that I kept it for years, even though it was just like a plastic cup that was not very nice, and it just looked bad and took up space in my cupboard. And that kind of thing happened all the time. And I know that maybe it's obvious, don't just take free things for no reason, but I think sometimes in the moment when we're offered something, it's hard to make that decision. We have to evaluate, will I use this in the future? Is this useful to me? And we don't have time to do all that calculus and make the right decision. But if you go through life having that decision already made, I say no to free things, it is just that much easier to make the decision in the moment. And then if for some reason you're like, oh my goodness, I actively really need this or want this, you can say yes. But otherwise, just saying no is the standby. And I think that doing this, being better at saying no to free things, also starts to change your mindset a little bit. It gets you out of that desperation zone or that scarcity mindset where you feel like you just need to take advantage of every deal or free opportunity. Instead, you're being picky, and it gives you back the power. A fifth habit is to set aside time for clarifying values and goals. If you feel motivated and like your life is in motion, like you're moving towards something, I think you're just a little less likely to excessively collect. There are lots of values-based exercises online if you just Google that. I also offer a worksheet on this on my Patreon, which is linked below if you're interested. But taking the time to sit down and evaluate, what are my values? What's important to me in life can make a huge difference in your pursuit of minimalism. Another habit is to check if you have a substitute before buying something new. I have this historic tendency to buy the same things over and over again in my pursuit of the perfect white t-shirt or the perfect pair of jeans. And quite often when I'm scrolling online and considering buying something, I forget about all the options I already have. But simply taking a moment to scan through in your head, or even to go to your closet or wherever you keep that thing and just to check what you have available can save you a lot of time and money in the long run. I think so often for groceries, we know to check, are we running low on milk? But we forget to do that for other categories. The seventh one is related, but it is to use your products until they're empty before you buy more. And this one is just sleek and simple. You just wait to buy the new shampoo until you're really out. It saves you money and real estate in your home, and that you don't have to store all this extra stuff in the cupboard. Another tip is to keep large, flat surfaces clear and to be planful about where you throw excess clutter in the moment. Just take the time to clear off counters and big flat surfaces. That's where clutter, I think, tends to breed, at least for me. And making that a top priority as I move around my home in my day, cleaning those flat surfaces can make a huge difference in how tidy my home feels. But I also realize there are moments where realistically you can't keep all surfaces clean all the time just because life is hectic, life is busy. But what I've tried to do is sequester areas that are devoted landing pads, little areas of flat surface where I throw things when I can't deal with them in the moment, so that they're kind of confined to certain areas that are less visually apparent. It's less overwhelming when it's not spread out across my entire home. I have just these little pockets of flat surface to declutter as opposed to the major flat surface areas. Not that the major flat surface areas never get covered with stuff, of course they do, but when I can help it, I try to avoid adding more clutter onto big flat surfaces. A ninth habit is to keep a next decluttering plan or goal in mind at all times, and then also to schedule that goal into your time. So basically always having a top priority area of what you want to be decluttering, thinking about what your next big project is, so that when you have little pockets of time here or there, you can go and do 10 or 15 minutes of decluttering in that area. Like, oh, I really want to tackle this back closet. When I have a few minutes, I'll work on that and I know what to do. Because sometimes it's almost like you don't know where to start decluttering when you do have a few minutes. So always having that next plan in mind allows you to just jump to working on that when you do have a spare extra few moments. But in addition to that, it's hard to make big changes in your home unless you actually put it into your schedule and put it in a formalized way where you have the time, you have the energy, you know you have the space to actually work on it. Because if you only do it, I think, in the moment, sporadically between things, it's hard to make those big leaps forward. So basically, this is a multi-pronged strategy to both just have the plan in mind, what's my next project, so that you can make those little tweaks along the way, but then also to make sure that you have bigger pockets of time where you can really tackle those projects and make big steps forward. A 10th hack is to have a home for each of your belongings. And this is sometimes easier said than done in that you got to do a lot of decluttering sometimes to have a clear home for each of your belongings. But ultimately, that's where you're trying to move toward. Once you have a home for everything that's easy to access, that isn't overly pressed up against other things, that's simple to put away, to grab, it's that much easier to keep your home tidy and streamlined. And so even if you don't have a spot for everything in your space right away, like say you're still on this decluttering journey, I recommend just taking one room at a time and trying to have a home for everything just in that one room and see what an impact it makes and see how much easier it is to actually clean up after yourself. And once you do that, that'll motivate you and give you momentum to continue doing that around different spaces in your home. So those are the habits I have for you. Hopefully they're helpful. Again, if you're interested in trying Ritual, their link is at the top of the description box below. Thanks so much to Ritual for supporting the channel. And I'll also link at the end of this video another relevant video to this concept if you're interested, if you want more ideas and to keep kind of going on this journey with me today. Anyway, that's most of what I've got for you today, but thank you so much for spending this little bit of time with me, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.